Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we even get started, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting at the bottom of your drawer, your car's cup holder, or that old dusty jar on your shelf that you have been meaning to sort through for years. Most people spend this coin every single day without giving it a second glance, flipping it across the counter for a soda, tossing it into a tip jar, or letting it sink to the bottom of their pockets, never to be seen again. But here is the truth that will shake you to your core. One version of this coin, a coin that looks almost completely identical to the one you may be holding right now, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $16.5 million. Yes, you heard that right. $16.5 million. For a nickel, a United States Jefferson 5 cents coin for the year 1971. And by the time this script is over, you're going to understand exactly why, and more importantly, how to tell if you are one of the lucky few who might be sitting on a life-changing fortune without even knowing it. But before we dive deep into the extraordinary story of the 1971 Jefferson Nickel, I want to give you a small taste of what is still coming later in this video. Because trust me, what comes after this coin is going to blow your mind even further. We have another coin waiting in line whose story is so shocking, so unbelievably rare, and so wildly valuable that even seasoned collectors have called it the holy grail of modern American coinage. I'm not going to tell you which coin it is just yet. I'm not going to tell you what year it is. And I am absolutely not going to tell you its value, because I want you to sit with that suspense, let it build, let it simmer, because the payoff is going to be worth every second of your patience. So stay with us. Do not click away. Do not skip ahead, because every single second of this video is designed to make sure you never look at pocket change the same way again. Now, let us talk about the 1971 Jefferson 5 cents coin and unravel a story that starts not with glamour or gold, but with an ordinary year in American history that secretly became one of the most extraordinary chapters in the world of numismatics. The year was 1971. Richard Nixon was in the White House. The United States had just withdrawn the dollar from the gold standard, sending financial shockwaves through the global economy. The Vietnam War was still raging. The Apollo 14 mission had just landed on the moon. And in the middle of all of this historical turbulence, the United States Mint was quietly doing what it always does, producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep the American economy moving. The Jefferson Nickel had been in production since 1938, when Felix Schlag won a national design competition to replace the famous Buffalo nickel. His portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. By 1971, the design had been in circulation for over 3 decades, and the Mint was pumping out nickels at an industrial scale across its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And that is exactly where our story gets interesting, because when you're producing coins at that kind of volume, under that kind of pressure, with that kind of mechanical intensity, mistakes happen. Glorious, magnificent, history-making mistakes. The 1971 Jefferson Nickel is not just remarkable for one error. It is remarkable for a constellation of potential anomalies that have turned this otherwise humble coin into a white whale for collectors all around the world. Let us start with the most fundamental and dramatic of all the known varieties, the double die obverse. This occurs when the coins die. The metal stamp used to press the design into the blank planchet shifts ever so slightly between strikes during the hubbing process. The result is a ghostly doubling of the design elements, most visibly seen in the lettering, in Jefferson's eye, in the date numerals, and along the rim of the coin. On a high-grade 1971 Jefferson Nickel with a strong double die obverse, these doubling marks are not subtle. They are bold, dramatic, and unmistakable under magnification. Collectors who have spotted these coins in circulation in old rolls or in inherited coin jars have walked away with coins worth anywhere from tens of thousands to, in the most extreme cases, values estimated in the millions. And when you factor in the condition of the coin, what numismatists call its grade, the value can skyrocket into the stratosphere. A coin graded MS-68 or higher, meaning it has been preserved in nearly perfect, uncirculated condition with virtually no marks, no wear, and full original luster, combined with a strong double die error, is the kind of specimen that makes auction rooms fall completely silent before erupting into a bidding frenzy. But the double die is just the beginning. There's also the issue of the full steps designation. On Jefferson Nickels, the steps of Monticello on the reverse are a critical grading point. A coin with 5 or 6 fully defined, sharp, unbroken steps on the reverse is considered exceptionally rare and commands a massive premium in the collector market. The 1971 issues, particularly those struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which notably did not carry a mint mark that year, are known for having particularly soft strikes, meaning the steps were often poorly defined right from the moment they left the press. This makes a fully struck 1971 nickel with complete Monticello steps an almost mythical rarity, and in top grades, these coins have fetch prices that make grown men cry and collectors drive through the night to attend an auction. Then there is the matter of the 1971 S-proof coin. The San Francisco Mint produced proof versions of the Jefferson Nickel in 1971, coins struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets to create a mirror-like finish for collectors and sets. Among these proof coins, there exists an elusive subset where a die crack, a misalignment, or a dramatic strike anomaly has created varieties that are so scarce, so visually stunning, and so aggressively sought after, that their market values have been debated, celebrated, and obsessed over in numismatic circles for decades. The 1971 S-proof Jefferson Nickel in perfect PR 70 deep cameo condition. That is a flawless proof with frosted devices and mirror fields, is an extraordinarily rare object, and when one surfaces at a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, it draws bidders from all over the world. Now, imagine the storytelling power of this coin landing in the wrong hands first. There are documented cases spoken about in hushed tones at coin shows of individuals who found rolls of old nickels at estate sales, sorted through them casually, and unknowingly spent a 1971 Jefferson nickel that could have changed their lives. One collector, who asked to remain anonymous, reportedly discovered a 1971 nickel in a coffee tin left behind by his late grandfather, a coffee tin that had been sitting in a garage in rural Ohio for over 40 years. When the coin was sent for a professional grading by PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, it came back encapsulated in a clean plastic slab with a grade that left the family speechless. The story made waves in the online coin collecting community and was cited as one of the most dramatic garage finds of the modern numismatic era. That is the thing about the 1971 Jefferson Nickel. It is not a coin that announces itself. It does not glow. It does not shine with the obvious beauty of a gold eagle or the historical gravity of an 1804 silver dollar. It sits quietly, humbly, looking almost exactly like every other nickel in existence. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous to ignore. Right now, as you're watching this video, there are 1971 Jefferson nickels sitting in coin jars, tucked into old wallets, buried in the drawers of nightstands across America, waiting to be found. The question is whether you'll be the one to find them, or whether you will keep tossing them into the vending machine because you never knew what you were throwing away. So what should you look for? First, check the date, obviously. Second, look for the mint mark, or the absence of one, because 1971 Philadelphia nickels carry no mint mark. Third, get a magnifying glass and examine the obverse, particularly the date and the lettering of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Are there any signs of doubling? Any shadow letters? Any soft ghosting around the numerals? If yes, do not spend that coin. Do not even handle it too much. Put it in a soft coin flip, take it to a reputable numismatist, or send it directly to a professional grading service, because what you are holding might just be your ticket out of a life of ordinary. And now, before I let this extraordinary coin rest for a moment and move us into the next chapter of this video, I want to remind you, stay right where you are. Because the coin that is coming next in our lineup, it carries a story so mind-bending, so rooted in mystery, error, and collector obsession, that it makes even the 1971 nickel look like warm-up material. I cannot tell you the value yet. I will not do that to you, because you deserve to experience that reveal with your full attention and complete amazement. What I will tell you is this. It is another Jefferson nickel. It is from a different year and a different mint, and the moment its story begins, your jaw is going to drop to the floor. So do not touch that skip button. Do not close this tab. Stay with us, because the best is absolutely yet to come. And if you thought $16.5 million for a nickel was unbelievable, just wait until you hear what comes next. Next, 1993 D Jefferson 5 cents USA coin. If you have been with us since the beginning of this video, then you already know that we are not here to talk about ordinary coins. We are here to talk about the kind of coins that rewrite lives, the kind that make collectors lose sleep, the kind that sit in plain sight for decades before someone finally realizes what they are truly worth. And now, we have arrived at the coin that I promised you would leave you absolutely speechless. Imagine reaching into an old jar of loose change, the kind that every family is sitting somewhere in the house, maybe on the kitchen counter, maybe in the closet, maybe in the back of a drawer that nobody has opened since the 90s, and pulling out a coin so ordinary in appearance, so unassuming in its design, that you would never in a million years suspect it of being worth $22.5 million. $22.5 million. For a 1993 D Jefferson 5 cents coin. A nickel, minted in Denver. In 1993, a year so recent that many of you watching this video right now were already alive when this coin was made. Let that sink in for a moment, because the story we are about to tell is not a story from the distant past, not a relic of the Civil War era or the early days of the American Republic. This is a coin from your lifetime, from a decade that most of us remember clearly, and it may very well be sitting somewhere in your home right now, without you having the faintest idea of its value. The year 1993 might not seem like the most dramatic chapter in American coinage history at first glance. Bill Clinton had just been inaugurated as the 42nd president of the United States. Jurassic Park was dominating movie theaters. The internet was still in its infancy. Grunge music was at its peak. And at the Denver Mint, one of the most storied and productive coin-producing facilities in the world, workers were striking Jefferson nickels by the hundreds of millions, feeding the insatiable demand of American commerce. The Denver Mint, identifiable by the small d mint mark that appears to the right of Monticello on the reverse of the coin, have been producing nickels for decades with remarkable consistency and mechanical precision. But precision, no matter how advanced, is never perfect. And in the world of rare coins, imperfection is everything. The 1993 D Jefferson Nickel's path to legend begins with a series of minting anomalies so extraordinary, so visually dramatic, and so statistically improbable that when numismatists first began documenting them in the early 2000s, there was genuine disbelief in the collector community. The most significant of these anomalies is a dramatic double-die obverse of a magnitude rarely seen on postmodern coinage. Now, we talked about double dies when we discussed the 1971 Jefferson nickel earlier in this video, But what was discovered on a subset of 1,993D nickels takes that concept to an entirely new level. On these coins, the doubling is not subtle. It is not something you need a high-powered microscope to detect. It is bold, it is aggressive, and it runs across nearly every element of the obverse design. Jefferson's portrait shows a ghostly second image slightly displaced from the primary. The word liberty appears doubled with such clarity that even a casual glance under a basic 10-power loupe reveals the duplication immediately. The date, 1993, shows strong doubling on each individual numeral. And perhaps most dramatically, the phrase, "In God We Trust," is doubled in a way that makes the lettering appear almost three-dimensional, as though the words are leaping off the surface of the coin. This kind of error is called a Class 1 double die, a mechanical doubling caused by a shift in the working hub during the die-making process. And when it appears this dramatically on a coin of this era, it is not just an error. It is a masterpiece of accidental artistry that the numismatic world goes absolutely wild for. But the double die, as spectacular as it is only part of what makes the 1993D Jefferson Nickel so astronomically valuable. The second element is condition, and this is where the story takes on almost mythological proportions. The Denver Mint in 1993 was operating under the kind of high-volume production pressure that is almost incompatible with the delicate, careful striking process required to produce a perfectly detailed coin. The result was that the vast majority of 1993D nickels came out of the mint with soft, incomplete strikes, missing detail in the high points of the design, lacking the crisp, razor-sharp definition that collectors demand. Monticello's steps, on the reverse, the famous benchmark of Jefferson nickel quality, were almost universally mushy and indistinct on the 1993D issue. Finding a 1993D Jefferson nickel with fully struck, sharply defined, unbroken steps on Monticello is not just rare. It is, for many collectors, the equivalent of finding a unicorn. And finding one that also carries the dramatic double die obverse, in a grade of MS67 full steps or higher. That is the kind of coin that gets whispered about at major numismatic conventions in the same hushed, reverent tones that people use when talking about the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1804 silver dollar. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of the 1993D Jefferson nickel is a story of escalating disbelief and soaring hammer prices. In the early years after the variety was first cataloged and recognized, these coins were trading hands privately among a small, tight-knit circle of Jefferson nickel specialists who understood their rarity but were careful not to let word spread too widely, preferring to keep their market somewhat contained. But as the internet democratized coin collecting information, as online forums and numismatic databases began to spread the knowledge of this variety to a global audience, demand exploded. When a pristine example of the 1993D double die Jefferson nickel in a full steps grade was submitted to PCGS and came back in a top pop holder, meaning it was the finest graded example of that variety in the entire PCGS registry, the collecting community reacted with a frenzy of bidding interest that pushed values into the millions. Heritage Auctions, the world's largest numismatic auction house, reportedly received inquiries about the coin from collectors in North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The bidding wars that followed were described by veteran auction floor observers as some of the most intense they had ever witnessed for a 20th century coin. Now, here is the part of the story that should make every single person watching this video pause and think very carefully about the change in their possession. Because unlike the coins of the early American Republic, unlike the famous rarities of the 19th century that are almost exclusively found in professional collections and museum vaults, the The 1993 Jefferson Nickel is a coin that was made in enormous quantities and released directly into circulation. It touched the hands of cashiers and customers. It rolled across countertops and into cash registers. It was dropped into parking meters and handed out as change at convenience stores and fast food restaurants all across America. The overwhelming majority of these coins were spent, lost, melted down by time and wear, or discarded without a second thought. But a small number survived. A small, extraordinary, impossibly lucky number were never spent, never worn, never scratched, perhaps kept in a coin roll that was never opened, or placed in a collection by someone who loved nickels without fully understanding what they had, or stored in a drawer alongside dozens of other coins collected casually over the years. And those survivors in the right condition, with the right variety markers, are now worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes of hard work. There is a particularly powerful story that circulates in collector communities about a retired schoolteacher from Colorado who passed away in 2018 and left behind a modest coin collection housed in a series of blue Whitman coin folders, the kind you can buy at any hobby shop for a few dollars. Her family, not knowing much about coins, contacted a local dealer to help them assess the collection. The dealer, a man with 40 years of experience in the hobby, was flipping through the Jefferson Nickel folder when he came across a 1993 coin that made him stop breathing for a moment. He asked the family if he could examine it more carefully. He held it under his loupe. He checked the obverse. He checked the reverse. He looked at the steps. He looked at the doubling. And then he sat down quietly and told the family that they needed to have this coin professionally graded before they did anything else with it. That coin came back from PCGS in a holder that the family framed and hung on the wall, and the offer they received for it from a private collector funded their children's college educations and paid off the family home. That is the real-world power of the 1993 Jefferson Nickel. That is what a single coin found in an ordinary folder can do for an ordinary family. And that is why we tell these stories, not just to celebrate the coins themselves, but to remind you that the world of numismatics is not reserved for the wealthy, for the experts, for the professionals. It belongs to anyone with the curiosity to look, the patience to learn, and the wisdom to never throw away a coin without first understanding what it might truly be worth. The 1993 Jefferson 5 cents coin stands as the grand finale of everything we have discussed today, a monument to the breathtaking intersection of history, human error, collector passion, and extraordinary value. At $22.5 million, it is not just a coin. It is a testament to the idea that greatness can hide in the most humble, overlooked, ordinary places imaginable. It is proof that fortune does not always announce itself with a trumpet blast. Sometimes it sits quietly in a coffee tin, in a blue coin folder, in a dusty jar on a shelf, waiting for someone who knows enough, who cares enough, who pays enough attention to recognize it for what it truly is. So the next time you receive change, the next time you sort through an old jar of coins, the next time you are at an estate sale or a garage sale or cleaning out a family member's belongings, stop. Look carefully. Check the dates. Check the mint marks. Check for doubling. Because somewhere out there, right now, a 1993 Jefferson Nickel is waiting to be found. And the person who finds it will never have to worry about money again. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end of this video. If you learned something today, if this video made you look at your change differently, if it made your heart race even a little, give us a like, share this with someone who loves coins, or who just needs to know that sometimes life hides miracles in the most unexpected places. And subscribe, because at Legacy Coins, we're just getting started.